Nice, guys. Oh, that feel like is really good. Getting started in a bit. Let me get to the bedroom to brush my teeth. I don't use at the bathroom. I'm gonna use the sink. Yeah, I prefer to use the sink actually. I hate talking while I have food particle in my mouth. In the mouth. Goodness gracious. Yes, and we are live, guys. Oh, yes, sir. Let me get to the bedroom first. Oh, nice. Silence on set. Silence on set. Some good name. I love them. I love them too. Mm. Nice. Perfect. Love it. Love it. Love it. Inadi umechana nywele. Lazima bwana. Nisaidie hizo watermelon. Yes, sir. And here we are, guys. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Here we are. Let me just share a link to my people. My people suffer because of what? Because of wisdom. Why your people suffer? And just a bit. I hear you now. I hear you say, yeah, yeah. I hear you say, I hear you say, I know. I hear you say, I hear you say, oh no. I hear you say, I hear you say, oh no. I hear you say, I hear you say, oh no. I hear you say, I hear you say, oh no. I hear you say, I hear you say, oh no. All right, guys, welcome to Hot Trending Topics. And I'm straight up going to go to the dailies, and then we're going to get to what's trending as well from both sides. So let's get started. It's time for Hot Topics. So you can jump in and let me know. I'll just be briefing you. slowly by slowly. There's a link. I'm waiting for it to load. Let it load as we continue. As it loads right over there. Yes. Yes, shout out to Matthew. Matthew, how are you, my bruv? Thank you for being there. Nice. Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir. I'm trying to set up just a little bit of my. I'm going to be here until 11 or maybe 12. All right. Hope I don't run out of. Good. Nice. So let me just get to the dailies and then we're going to react. And I'm going to take you through some of these interesting top trending stories that caught my attention during the day. And earlier on, we had a chance to actually highlight the People Daily. The People Daily talks about the splash in the People Daily. Next time, I'm gonna get a streamer where I'll be able to like pinpoint exactly and just show it to you. But on the People Daily, it talks about inside Ruto's power circle, and they've described it as they work from behind closed doors, cutting away billions in earnings, a collective outfit invisible in public, unstoppable in power, mired in controversy, and whispering decisions that steer the nation. And there's a photo right over there of the president and then his aide Farouk Kibet. They're talking about inside Ruto's circle. This again just comes after the by-election that happened for the better part of last week. It has been marred with a lot of violence, especially the hotly contested areas that were Mbeere North, as well as the Nyanza region, Kasipul, and also in Malava, part of Western Nyanza, which I find it to be really dramatic because these by-elections are actually a precursor of what's going to happen in 2027. So, but then there's a lot of people who are actually questioning why is the president having people like Farouk Kibet around him who should not be there? But you know what? You just don't know sometimes. You remember there's a time when during the Gen Z protest, people are like, the president should shelve down, like cut off part of your advisory staff because they're earning huge sums of money and yet nothing was being affected that time. Anyways, that's a splash on the People Daily. But we're going to get to that in just a bit. We're going to get to the headlines. And the next one is the Daily Nation. The Daily Nation splash talks about by-elections fallout and then double standard. That's a question, actually. And it says, a shout out to you, Matthew Samuel. Top politicians who backed rival candidates in the just concluded by-elections are facing disciplinary action, including potential removal from party and parliamentary leadership positions. Sources in the broad-based government team of Kenya Kwanza and ODM reveal plans to reorganize parliamentary leadership to reflect the current political realignment. And then there's an interesting highlight down below. It talks about paradox of jobless PhD holders. Man, this is interesting. Here's what this article says. It actually talks about while advanced education is often hailed as the path to opportunity for many of the country's most educated citizens, it has instead become a journey into uncertainty. Behind every PhD certificate lies years of sacrifice, long and immense. Yet instead of leading in research and policy, many of Kenya's scholars are trapped in cycles of part-time teaching, unpaid consultancies, or total joblessness. So this research actually gives it a paradox of how many. It says 400 PhD holders. Kenya produces approximately 300 to 400 PhD graduates every year against national targets of at least 1,000. So wanasema most PhD holders do not have jobs, hawana makazi. Most of them are actually languishing in unemployment. They've cited here unpaid consultancies and research, some of them surviving hand to mouth to some of the gigs. Like in this country, it's just difficult to literally, let's say, get a job that you studied for. Believe me, there's a few people who are practicing. Maybe I could be one of them who is practicing what I studied for, but a few of the people that pursued, let's say, if you pursued engineering, if you were to actually do, let's say, if you were to do a research and just get to see how many people are practicing professionally what they studied for, believe me, it's not gonna be. It's not, the number is not gonna hack 50%. It will be extremely low. So wanasema watu wa PhD pale hawana kazi, mwatafutie kazi. Do you know anyone who has a PhD na hana kazi? Tafadhali, let me know. And then the splash on the standard, it talks about scam loading. For 21 years, a disputed 23-acre plot in Karen has swallowed billions for hospitals that exist only on paper, despite an active court fight, forged documents, and unanswered ownership claims. The Social Health Authority now wants another 50 million for a fee for a fence around land the state may not even own, thus keeping a ghost project alive at a staggering public cost. And I think this is some of the issues we are actually talking about. Projects that exist only on paper, but yet they are consuming a lot of resources, taxpayers' money, right? Taxpayers' money is getting lost into these ghost projects. And one of this is this piece of land in Karen. This, apparently the government needs 50 million to fence. 50 million to fence. Kwani it's what is it? Is it I just don't know how to even describe this. Anyways, but then you can see, I can see there's a photo of the current SHA CEO, that is Mercy Mwangangi, who is formerly, you might remember her during COVID, and the authority has secured a budget of 50 million Kenya shillings to help the fencing the plot, even as it awaits the conclusion of an ownership dispute. DCI requested NHIF to surrender the original titles for purposes of investigation, and the current status of the matter indicates that the criminal matter is still ongoing. So it's really interesting because when it comes to government projects and how, I'd say, citizens of this country are demanding for equal share of resources. Now that the president amesema in his yesterday's address, I think alikuwa milimani, si alisema by the time he's 90, anataka ku ensure that this country is at Singapore, is at that Singaporean first world kind. I think maybe let's just use the word developed country, which I believe is an interesting thing to look at. Anyways, now, there's something interesting that Maverick Aoko said, and I want to get to her X platform. And this is in regards to Berila Cheng. Berila Cheng is the sister to the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who's just deceased. And I tell you, things are boiling really crazy. So Maverick Aoko apparently has intel on the family, the Odingas, in terms of them burying Berila Cheng. So I hear word on the cab allegedly had it. According to Maverick Aoko, she says that they have that Ida Odinga and the son, they've refused to contribute funds to put together that can help, during the send-off of Berila Cheng. So they want the other ones to shughulikia the case. Let me just get to one of her tweets, and I found it to be really explosive. I hope I get it anyways. Right? Nice. And what also got my attention was the feedback, because they're saying up to now, people have contributed up to 14,000 cattle that were sent just in honor of the former departed Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Yes. Here's the tweet. Here's what Maverick Aoko shared about the burial of, Beryl Odinga. So quote unquote, it says, nasikia Aida na Junior wamefungia zile 14 cows walipewa. Cows alone inajaza Nyayo 8 times. 14,000 cows. That's a lot of cows. Pesa kando. They have said Oburu and Matako Daram Ruth should sort the rest. And then akamalizia hapo ati ni wao wa Broadchet. Raila's body is still already at Jakodinga at war anyways. But yeah, this follows actually an article that was highlighted by this Star. It talks about the Odinga family has appealed to Kenyans for financial support to help cover funeral expenses for the late Beryl Acheng Odinga. And this has caused actually public uproar, because I remember actually seeing that post on social media yesterday, and a lot of people are saying, why the Odingas have enough resources. If there's families that are extremely rich in this country, one of those families is the Odinga families. They have all the resources in the whole entire world to actually do, everything that they can. So apparently, the reason why they're not being part of that is because they've said Oburu and Ruth should sort the rest, who are still the brother and sister to Odinga. Because Ida, allegedly, according to this court, Ida anasema ye hayuko broad-based government, hao ndio wako broad-based. But also, if you've been king, speaking of Ida Odinga, if you've been king, even during the ODM at 20, Mama Ida Odinga was nowhere to be seen or heard from. During the rallies as well, she was nowhere to be seen or heard from, which poses the question, where is Mama Ida Odinga? And I think it's very important because when it comes to such a family, the Odinga family, I believe the next person who's going to hold it down so good so that the family stands is definitely Ida Odinga. And so she's definitely, maybe she's recovering from the shock and effect of the loss of her husband, who is the former prime minister. But according to Maverick Aoko, one thing about Maverick Aoko is she always has intel. And some of it ends up being true, actually. True story. The first time I met Maverick Aoko was in 2021. I was moderating, it was called the Gender Youth Dialogue at the University of Nairobi. And that time, Maverick Aoko was still an advocate of the boy child. Hakuwa amebadilika bado. She had not yet been no, as in kupigwa heartbreak, sijasema hiyo kupigwa ingine, you know. So I was the moderator and it was a feminist setup. And I remember it had officials from the United Nations Women, Amnesty International Kenya, plus many other NGOs that were advocating for the girl child. So the conversation ended up that it sounded like it was feminists against Maverick Aoko. And me, as the moderator of that conversation, I had to stand up for Maverick Aoko. Trust me, I received a lot of hits. We literally had to run off stage. And I remember at some point the crowd getting angry and it was charging and approaching the stage. It was actually at the University of Nairobi, University Towers, could have been floor number 8. And I tell you, I had to stand up for Maverick Aoko and defend her. That's when we became friends. Actually, Maverick Aoko follows me everywhere. Maybe IG peke yake, but X, Wapi, TikTok. And whenever I interview somebody famous on why, she's always, giving me comments. Even the day I was interviewing Caliph Cairo, Maverick Aoko sent me several questions to ask. And even when that part was shared, Maverick Aoko was the first one to capture it and share it on her TikTok platform. So interesting. Anyways, that's how I met Maverick Aoko. And I can tell you for free, you can take it to the bank. Maverick Aoko always has intel on some of these things. It ends up being true and sometimes not. Anyways, now away from that as well, there's an interesting story about President Donald Trump. And apparently Trump has issued a directive against, it's actually one of his ICE laws. ICE is the immigrations body for the United States. It's the Immigrations Customs Enforcement. Just call it ICE. When Donald Trump came into office, it first off began with an initiative to deport all illegal migrants or inhabitants who are living in the United States who had no legal documentation. And at some point, it escalated to a situation where ICE officials are now following people door to door, going state to state to try and even ask, you could have stayed in the United States for 40 years, but maybe you went there on a work visa, on an education visa. And that's when a self-deportation initiation was actually installed. So I think it's from People, is it Pulse or People? Let me see. Kenya, yes, I believe it's Kenya News. We just say on one of the website. They had actually given an excerpt of what President Donald Trump thinks about, African countries. And I think there's one of the tweets that Donald Trump said he feels like most African countries have a lot of high crime rate and he doesn't want criminals in his country. So the best thing he could do is to eliminate them out of his country. And recently we've seen a lot of foreigners and even US citizens doing something called self-deportation. They even now have an app in the United States. If you feel like your life is in danger, or maybe they might come for you and you don't want to be busted because they could actually deport you in a humiliatory manner. So the best thing you can do is just to self-deport yourself. And I remember doing actually a commentary video, could have been, this is December. It was around August-ish there. There's a Kenyan American who had lived in the United States for close to 16 plus years. That's almost a decade. And he went through his first marriage. Then I don't know why the American courts, especially divorce court, is the most lucrative business in the United States, literally. So what he did is his first marriage failed. I think he had custody battle, and the wife took him, was Black American, took him to the courts, and the courts decided, you know what, this marriage cannot continue. We are dissolving it. So he had to get on to another marriage, but he already had a child in the first marriage. So sometimes, previously, before during the Biden administration, if you are a lady and maybe you come from Kenya and you get a chance to date an American, white or black, yeah, and you get married, you could be entitled to citizenship. But when Trump's administration came into office, they actually removed that marriage entitlement. So you could have sired kids with an American model, a military guy or whoever, but still you're not equitable to citizenship, which I find it to be really interesting because Trump's modus operandi sounds more isolationist. Like it's more of yes, it's America first, it's put America's first, but it's more of I want for my country, not for other countries. And that's why there's been a lot of tariffs for countries that seemingly look like they're not abiding by Trump's playbook. And I think it has made it difficult. And that's why you're seeing something like a mass exodus. If you've been very keen, you've noticed that there's a lot of Americans who are moving to Kenya, and they're even documenting, their stories, why they left the United States, why they feel like Africa is the next big place or the big thing, or what to look out or watch out for. I have personally interviewed an American who we are calling them repatriates now. Yeah, an American who's moved from the United States to come and settle right here, and one interesting about his story is that he says he had never found peace in the United States. It's really interesting because I can imagine you being a Kenyan, you're born and raised in Kenya, and your life takes you through so many, let's say, storms, and you arrive to a place where you make a decisions and tell yourself, you know what, I feel like this country I was born in, I don't have any peace. So I'm going to go maybe to Ukraine to find peace. And I find it to be very profound because when you look at some of the things that people battle mentally, especially when it comes to even the economy, but the gag is you're born in a first world country. What could make you so uncomfortable and irritable to stay and live in your own country that you opt to move out and settle in a third a developing country, so to say? But also there's been kumekuwa na hii inaitwaje, celebrities, mostly elite celebrities wamekuwa wakitafuta their connection, their roots. Some of them, I think, including Ciara. Ciara, I think, is it Ciara who found her roots in Nigeria? Or it was Ludacris who found his roots in Morocco? It's one of them, including Akon. Akon has a whole city, he's building. Yeah. Including she's the executive producer of Monami. Her name is Mona Scott Young of the Love and Hip Hop franchise of that reality TV show. I remember her as well, finding her roots in one of those African countries. It's interesting that, we're seeing most of these Black Americans, leave their countries to come and settle right here in Africa. As they should, man. As they should. All right, now, there's something interesting I've seen right here. And it's in regards to this current wave of, liposuction wave happening in the country. A lot of ladies are using Ozempic drugs. And I just want to tell you that Ozempic drugs were initially meant for, they are diabetic drugs. They're not meant for weight loss. But celebrities, I'd say, like Oprah Winfrey, who, in fact, she ended up earning a name, Ozempra, because she just disappeared from the public. And when she returned, she had lost a lot of weight. And it turns out it was the Ozempic drugs. So also you need to understand that in Kenya, the Ozempic drugs that are being sold are not the real Ozempic drug. I'll get to that, but let me just read this excerpt story from I think it's Nairobi gossip as it loads right over there. Yes, I think I found it. So here's what it says. It says Gloria Tanzola. She's a TikToker who went viral during the protests, I believe, the anti-finance protest, where Akanjo forced himself into her car, and she decided, you know what, unaingia kwa gari yangu bila permission, unaingia kwa gari yangu bila permission, nitakufanya. Really, did she say nitakufanya? She didn't say nitakufanya. Alisema twende, tunataka kwenda na mimi, twende kwenye tutaenda. Anyway, here's the response. So Ntazola responds to fans criticizing her fillers, says they are for elite women and not for villagers. I think it was in one of those Q&As, and it says, everything you did on your body is sexy and cute except the fillers. Honestly, they look so bad. I prefer. So she went on a whole rant. Another question asked, baby boo, would you go for a man without money, but he loves you? And then she answered and responded, marriage is a business partnership. You will definitely get bored of effing and cuddling daily. So what next? If we can't make money in that marriage, then there's no reason for partnership. I don't like wasting my time. Okay. Funny. This one is interesting. She said, Kenyan men or Nigerian men or Mzungu? So this is what she responded. It was a Q&A, those Instagram Q&As, and she said, there are good Kenyan men, but very few, you don't find them easily. The bad ones are very accessible, out there doing the most and calling women and arguing with women online. But this polished Kenyan men with great standards and respect. Okay, respect for women, but it's not easy to see them around. Some case with Nigerians. I find it really bizarre because, hey, this chick, this is what she says, you know. So let me give you a little backstory. This chick decided to go for liposuction. She first, after she trended for skin toning, I believe it's skin toning or skin lightening, whatever she did. Let's just call it bleaching. So she went viral, and now she's, as you can see even in that thumbnail, she looks more fairer. She's more lighter or more light skinned, so to say. And there's, of late in the 254, there's been an obsession. I don't know if it's an obsession or women are now finding it easier to go for liposuction, cosmetic surgery to enhance themselves. But yeah, these surgeries are there for people. They're not there for dogs or animals, so to say. If you know you have the money, go for it. But there's one where this lady who died, I don't know if you remember, they operated on her and something happened. She got a hernia and she bled to death. Now, the next trend is Ozempic drugs. A lot of influencers are lying to you guys and telling you that if you want to lose weight within 3 days, just go buy Ozempic drugs at the counter. Like over-the-counter drugs, most of the times, they have a very lethal effect on your immune system. And that's why all of those celebrity influencers who've used those Ozempic drugs, there's one called Munjaro. It's an injection. It's a generic. So it's a generic. The reason why generic Ozempic drugs or weight loss drugs are very dangerous is because they don't have, let's say, a buffer. The original drugs have a buffer in a sense that the after effects of it can be managed by other drugs that are recommended or built to fight the pain or the ailing that comes with the original drugs. But for generic, if you get a heart attack, that's it. That's it for sure, for sure. So there's an obsession with Kenyan ladies, I'd say, to just like to lose weight, get to say, like right now, I think it's the BBL, the Brazilian butt lift, which I've seen as well. Pretty Vichy did, and she says she's so uncomfortable. But all these things come from a place of lack of self-confidence, you know. Lack of self-confidence can push you to do things. And I pretty much understand. It can push you to do things that you definitely wouldn't have imagined yourself doing. And this is what we are seeing, an outburst of so many Kenyan women. And also previously, these surgeries or these Ozempic drugs, it looked like they were for the elites, you know, but now anyone can access it. So long as you have the money, visit the nearby hospital, whether in Karen, whatever place in the world. You can buy them over the counter. I think that's the most dangerous medication. Like self-medication should never be prescribed to anyone who has a serious illness. If you know you're suffering from any kind of illness or you want to lose weight, please go to a professional, do a consultation. You better pay the price of a consultation than do something that would end your life and like just discount. Like you better get professional help. That's what I'd say. And also you're seeing there's an obsession. And then those drugs as well are very cheap. Very cheap. That's why it's called generic, right? That's why it's called generic. All right, now 7 days to university students freed after CCTV shows Lorna Katambi fell while trying to jump between balconies. This is an interesting story that actually happened last weekend. This university students were sherehe pale, and then one of them ended up, dying mysteriously. And quote unquote, the story says 7 university students who were earlier arrested over the death of Daystar University student Lorna Katambi Karani have been released after the new CCTV footage cleared them of any direct involvement. The footage showed Lorna attempting to jump between 2 balconies at Harmony Plaza in Ngara while intoxicated. Her friend made it across. Lorna slipped and fell from the 11th floor, and the group had spent the night partying on the 12th floor and had been warned by security about loud noise. Initially, investigations treated the 7 suspects, but the DPP has now recommended a public inquest instead of murder charges. Yes, because when it comes to house parties, especially if you're a university student, take care of yourself. Sometimes things can really get murky. Talking continuously ain't no joke. Let me just read some of the comments to that post. Somebody said, sasa waeke sherehe moja safi ya kucelebrate. Really? Mmeshiko tu hivi kwa madhambi then unataka kurudi kwa dhambi. I can imagine the amount of prayers their parents were actually saying, just in case wapatikane they were guilty. That would have messed them up so badly. Mjiangalie poa, hii mwaka tunamaliza wote, God mbele. By the way, the rate at which, a very insidious stuff has been happening, we need the good Lord to protect us from all the weapons of the enemy in the mighty name of Jesus, because, hey, things can really get hectic. All right, now on to some international news stuff as well. Let's see what's on CNN as we close it up. And I'll definitely like to, I'll sample some of your feedback and those that have already said whatever they want to say. Right. This one is an interesting one. It's on BBC News. So, the artist by name Georgia Smith. Be honest, you honest, you want it. I can be heartless, regardless of my conscience. So her name is Georgia Smith. That is the artist behind that name. And quote unquote, this article says, Georgia Smith label claims a viral song was made using AI clone of her voice. Interesting. And this is what, just a deep dive into it, quote unquote, there's actually outrage and backlash. It says, we cannot allow this to become the new normal. Georgia Smith's record label FMM has said it wants a share of the royalties for a song it claims was created using an artificial intelligence clone of the singer's voice. I Run by the British dance act Haven went viral on TikTok in October with smooth vocals by an accredited female singer. Producer and songwriter Harrison Walker said the original vocals were actually his own, but they were heavily changed using music generation software, Suno. And I think this is the world you're stepping into. There's also another AI artist by name Zania. Zania or Zanaya. Is it Zania or Zanaya Monet? Zanaya Monet, yeah. She's also going viral. Like just check right here on YouTube. Zania Monet or Zanaya Monet. Xania Monet. Monet. She's an AI. In real life, she's a real artist and a human. She goes by totally a different name, but she created the AI musician Zanaya Monet that looks exactly sounds human. Everything about her is human, but it's an AI musician, right? So she featured on the Tom Hall show, and she said the reason why she decided to learn about AI as an artist is because, she was going through, she was struggling with creativity. She mentioned something that has to do with creativity, but also she wanted to explore the world of artificial intelligence and just get, the hang of it. And so she came up with Zanaya Monet. So shockingly, each and every video that's on the YouTube platform of Zanaya Monet has gone viral. And I can see, let me just read some of the comments. Somebody say AI art is not art. It's stolen intellectual property from real artists. For sure, for sure, for sure. Another one said, I'm so glad that I haven't heard it. I'm now interested to go. I'm now interested to go listen to it. Another one said, I mean the Beatles' final release done same for Lennon's voice. Okay. Interesting stuff. Have you listened to any AI artist? Please let me know. I'd like to hear from you. Any AI artist that you've listened to that you gravitate towards their music? I would definitely be glad to, hear from you. All right, now there's an interesting update from 50 Cent and P. Diddy. P. Diddy is trending for good and bad reasons. So Chelsea Gomez was not prepared to lose a relationship with her best friend at one. No, no, no. I think this is about cancer ghosting. So let me just get through it really fast. It says cancer ghosting can be more painful than the treatment. Survivors say the loss of social support after cancer diagnosis is a common experience. It's actually a slide on NPR. And then it says what happened to Chelsea Gomez is common enough that some have coined a term for it, cancer ghosting. This social isolation and loss of support, even from close friends and family members, is a devastating and often unrecognized side effect of the disease. Survivors say abandonment creates scars that run deeper and take longer to heal than physical damage. Yes, 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 yes. Gomez was diagnosed with Hodgkin lymphoma at the age of 28. She's among a growing population of 18.1 million people experiencing relatively new frontier in cancer survivorship as scientific advances enable more people to live much longer. Survival is coming with new challenges in life afterward. I find it to be really sad because a lot of people take cancer as a death sentence, but of late, there's been a lot of inventions that are trying to help people to get treatment, people to, let's say, believe that cancer should not be really the end of you. It's a disease just like any other. You can go through whatever phase of it. So long as it's manageable by drugs, you can beat it. And there's been so many endless testimonies of people who've gone through cancer and they've successfully beat it. So it shouldn't be a death sentence. But again, the thing is, a lot of people humiliate. Is it humiliate or discriminate people that have cancer and even HIV, right? And speaking of HIV, that should have been part of a top story, but I highlighted it. I actually did a video report. It's just right here on my channel. You can definitely go there and find it. And I just want to get it. I just want to get to the deeper details of it. And this is after Citizen TV. Citizen TV has had, let's say, quite a tremendous, coverage of the HIV situation right here in our country. And the numbers are skyrocketing. And interestingly, Nairobi leads with the highest number of infections. And this is what it read. I'm just reading it exactly as well from Citizen. It says, quote unquote, Nairobi County now leads in new HIV infections in the country. Data from the National Syndemic Disease Control Council shows that in the last 1 year, Nairobi recorded more than 3,000 new HIV infections out of 19,991 cases reported nationwide. The report shows the new infections have risen by 19%, up from 16,752 from 19,991. And nearly half of all the new infections were concentrated in just 8 counties that include Nairobi, Migori, Kisumu, Homa Bay, Busia, Siaya, Kakamega, and Nakuru. The data that further reveals that infections remain highest among youth aged between 15 to 34 years of age, who from the bulk of the new cases, meanwhile, AIDS-related deaths increased to 21,007 in the same period. And then they're also giving out rather This is actually in commemoration of World AIDS Day. Uh, County to county caseload. Nairobi has 3,045 infections. Migori has 1,572. Kisumu leads with 1,341. Homa Bay has 1,180. Busia has 886. Siaya has 873. Kakamega 835. Nakuru with 819. I actually did I did a report. I did a comprehensive report of it yesterday. If you check it right here on my YouTube channel, you'll definitely see it. I just think the reason why Nairobi is leading is because of the hookup culture. The hookup culture in Nairobi is insane. Not even terrific. Terrific is a good adjective. Is sick. The number of people hooking up, especially young people, university students. Hey, kwanza kuna mtu alikuwa mention University of Nairobi. Somebody had mentioned University of Nairobi students. Me, I'll tell you this. Clubs mingi zina contribute kwa hizi spike in HIV infections. Another thing is hookup culture. The hookup culture in Nairobi is just insane. A lot of people are hooking up with whoever, especially young girls who are looking for money. My friend, we must address this issue. The rate at which young people are hooking up, like sex for pay, it's just, it's a lot. And I think we need to maybe just rethink. Is it rethink or relook? We need to look at it. Another one is availability of dating apps. The dating apps are just too much. Dating apps easily available. Zitolewe tu manze. Because when you look at this report, they're giving it an age bracket of 15,000, rather of 15 years to 34. That's a very young population right over there. You can imagine all of those young people are infected, by HIV and AIDS. So I think it's time that we just, find a way of actually, ensuring that either people go to test, and if you have to forcefully engage sexually, then tafadhali use protection, because people are not who you think they are. You might think you found that unaweza dhani umeangukia, kumbe umeangukiwa man. Kumbe uliangukiwa. So people gotta be very careful. And I think that should mark the end of some of the hot trending stories. Lastly, before I forget, there's a story about Mosiria. Mosiria actually said he's requesting the president to give young people a package, because the president was attending a wedding, one of course, a government official, and the president has urged all young men and women, if you know that you're 25 plus and above, get married, acha kumanga, moving from one club to another, So what followed was just, I say a couple of reactions from citizens, both online and even in real life. And wakakuja wakasema, you know what? It's hard to even marry in your economy. So kama nadhani koa tu ni rahisi. But I'll tell you this. I think this is a good initiative. So to say, if I told Geoffrey Mosiria is very serious about that initiative, wapeane package ya maboy child when you're 25 plus and above na hawajamari, upewe package hapo hivyo uanzishe life kama ni biashara. First of all, because to be honest, there's countries that are paying people to get married. There's a country, I don't know if it's in Finland or New Zealand, where they pay people to get married. First of all, you get married, and then when you have kids, you're equitable or entitled to a stipend that's even more than the money that they give you. And I remember at some point we did a coverage of that story, and I was just checking through the feedback, and people were saying, "I wish that was Kenya." You know, people are being paid to get married. Actually, it's actually a thing for sure, for sure. It's actually a thing in some of these developed countries, and the reason why they're doing that is because most of them are running out of labor, human labor. And that's why you're seeing there's a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of enlisting into military. There's a recent case where there's a Kenyan who, like, he was contacted by a friend akaambiwa, you know what, kuna hii job iko majuu. So mtu akisikianga ni majuu, the next thing is, yeah, let me go get a passport. Majuu ni wapi, right? So he got a passport, akaambiwa hii kazi utakuwa unalipwa 10K, $10,000. I think the word is $10,000, right? So kufika, kumbe dude was being recruited to train in military in a war-torn country. I believe it was it Russia or Ukraine? And this is something that's going to happen a lot because some of these developed countries, they're actually enlisting young men. If you're 18 plus and above, you are recruited directly into the army because they believe that there's a looming World War III. So they will do everything that they can to have resources and manpower that will help them to, get anything that they have to do so that they prepare themselves for this impending World War III. It's something that Russia is going through. China as well is preparing for it. Ukraine is also preparing for it in as much as they're even still at war right now. So enlisting is the word where you're 18 plus and above, come. And for some people, it has ended up being tragic because there's those who've died. Like the story we saw recently being highlighted on Citizen TV. There's that Kenyan dude. He found himself in the most dangerous of that war training military area. And he was saying, like, whatever they throw you, that's where you survive. Whatever they throw you, that's where you survive. Either you die or you make it through, and nobody cares. If you die, you die. So I find it to be really just tragic and inhuman that this is what they're doing. And people are going for that because they're looking for jobs, opportunities, money. The desperation that comes with lacking a job is just insane, So I think that can close it up with some of our trending hot topics, I believe. A man at MIT study finds AI can already replace 11.7% of the US workforce. I can imagine how President Donald Trump is feeling. But Donald Trump doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn about anything Africans. And that's why he actually believes that most Africans should not be in the United States. By the way, guys, I think I did a whole report. It's actually right here on my YouTube channel. Donald Trump feels that Africans should stay in their own countries. And he even mentioned, I think, Somalia, because there's this chick. What is her name? Ilhan Omar. She's a representative in the United States. Yes, Donald Trump told her, you know what? You came from Somalia. Somalia is an SHIT whole country. It doesn't have great resources. You're here in my country complaining. She's a representative, I believe, right? Yeah, but she's an immigrant. So there's this American representative, Anajita. She's black. Her name is Jasmine Crockett. If you just check Jasmine Crockett right here. She's done interviews on almost every United States TV and radio digital platform where she's advocating for the right. She's a Democrat representative, yeah? And there's an interesting sentiment where she said that President Donald Trump is, let's say, rejecting or offsetting immigrants, but his wife is an immigrant. In fact, his wife doesn't speak the best American English, She still has that accent. Anyway, that's Melania Trump. It's been a while since we heard from her, man. It's been a while since we heard from her. And interesting, but what are we going to do now? What I said is, if you know that you're an American, and Black Americans more so specifically, if you can find any African that you can invest in, buy land, buy resources, secure something in Africa, because I believe it's going to get so chaotic being in the United States. But I'm praying that the economy just because they've had an economic shutdown, right? I pray that they manage to recover so that black people are not just ejected from their homes and what they've accomplished for all those years, because it's really painful, very painful. And now with the self deportation, it's wild and just insane. Anyways, thank you for your own time. Ensure that you share your concerns and your sentiments at the comment section. I'll be sampling them offline as I continue to do more live. So I'll be dedicating, I think, every Monday night. And as well as I'm going to ensure that, if there be somebody else who can join in with me, we'll be going live. But thank you so much. Let me shout out to a couple of people. There's somebody said, where are you from? Nairobi, Kenya. Kai Taylor. Hi, 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 hi. Matthew Samuel, thank you. Shout out to you. And everybody else who tuned in. I think it's time for me to exit. I really appreciate you guys. And have a lovely night for those that are going to bed. Time for me to exit because I think it's already 11. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay blessed up.